Emma wiped the sweat from her brow as she balanced 3 plates of greasy burgers and fries on her arm, weaving through the crowded diner like a pro despite the ache in her feet that had become her constant companion after 12-hour shifts. At 28, she felt like she'd aged a decade in the last year alone, ever since her husband walked out, leaving her with a mountain of bills, a leaky apartment, and their 5-year-old daughter, Lily, who deserved so much more than ramen noodles for dinner every night. The diner, a faded relic called Joe's Joint on the edge of town, was her lifeline and her prison, paying just enough to keep the lights on but never enough to dream beyond the next paycheck. Her uniform, stained with coffee spills and ketchup smears, clung to her like a second skin, a reminder of the dreams she'd shelved, the college degree in business she'd started but never finished, the hope of owning her own little café tilde copyright someday. Instead, she smiled through gritted teeth at rude customers, refilled endless cups of burnt coffee, and prayed that the tips would cover Lily's school supplies this month. Tonight was no different. The Friday crowd was rowdy, a mix of truckers, locals drowning their sorrows, and the occasional out-of-towner looking lost. The air was thick with the scent of fried onions and stale beer from the bar section, where a group of burly men had been getting louder by the hour, their laughter turning into slurred arguments that made Emma's stomach twist. She glanced at the clock at 10 p.m., still 2 hours until closing, and sighed, thinking of Lily at home with the neighbor babysitter, probably already asleep clutching her worn teddy bear. As she set down the plates at table 5, a crash echoed from the bar, followed by shouts. "You think you're better than us, suit?" one of the men snarled, his face red and veins bulging. Emma turned to see a lone man in a crisp button-down shirt, clearly not from around here, backing away with his hands up, his eyes wide with surprise. He looked out of place, like he'd wandered in by mistake, perhaps seeking a quiet drink after a long day. The aggressor, a hulking guy named Big Mike whom Emma knew from his weekly benders, shoved him hard, sending the stranger stumbling into a stool. The bar erupted, glasses shattered, and fists started flying as Mike's buddies joined in, turning the scuffle into a full-blown brawl. Patrons screamed and scattered, but Emma froze for only a second before instinct kicked in. She'd seen enough fights in this dive to know they could turn deadly, and something about the stranger's frightened yet dignified face tugged at her heart as he reminded her of her own vulnerability, a fish out of water in a shark tank. Without thinking, she grabbed a nearby broom, the kind with the sturdy wooden handle, and rushed forward. "Hey! Stop it!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos like a whip. Mike swung wildly, but Emma ducked and jabbed the broom handle into his knee, just hard enough to make him yelp and stagger back. The stranger, now on the floor shielding his head, looked up in astonishment as she positioned herself between him and the mob. "Get out of here, all of you. Cops are on their way," she bluffed, though her hands shook as she dialed 911 on her phone with one thumb. The other waitresses huddled behind the counter, but Emma stood her ground, her maternal fierceness surging. Protecting this man felt like protecting Lily, like fighting for every underdog who'd ever been kicked when down. Mike lunged again, but the stranger, regaining his footing, helped her shove a table in the way, creating a barrier. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the brawlers scattered like roaches, cursing as they fled into the night. Emma helped the man to his feet, her heart pounding. "You okay, mister?" she asked, brushing glass shards from his sleeve. He nodded, wincing at a cut on his lip, his eyes meeting hers with a gratitude that made her cheeks flush. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice cultured and calm despite the ordeal. "You didn't have to do that." She shrugged, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. "Someone had to. Can't let these idiots ruin everyone's night." As the police arrived and took statements, Emma downplayed her role, insisting it was no big deal, but inside, she worried what if Mike came back for revenge? What if she lost her job for the damage? The stranger pressed a business card into her hand before leaving. "If you ever need anything," he said softly. Emma pocketed it without looking, too tired to care. Back home, after tucking Lily in, she collapsed on the couch, the card falling out. It read Alexander Grant, CEO, Gourmet Horizons Incorporated. She chuckled wearily. It must be a joke. What CEO would slum it in a place like Joe's? Little did she know, that night had set in motion a chain of events that would upend her world. The next morning, Emma dragged herself back to the diner, her body sore from the scuffle, only to find the place buzzing with gossip. "Heard that guy you saved is some big shot," her coworker whispered. Emma laughed it off, focusing on the breakfast rush. But as the days blurred into weeks, her struggles intensified. Lily came down with a fever, the rent hiked, and tips dwindled with the autumn chill. She pawned her wedding ring for groceries, tears stinging as she handed it over. Nights were spent poring over job ads, but with no degree in a spotty resume, options were slim. One evening, as she served a family their meals, her mind wandered to the stranger Alexander. Curiosity piqued, she Googled Gourmet Horizons on her break. Her jaw dropped. It was the parent company of half the fancy chains in the city, from upscale bistros to casual eateries. And there he was, in photos, Alexander Grant, the reclusive CEO known for his rags-to-riches story, turning a single food truck into an empire. Her heart raced. Had she really saved the billionaire? But why was he in Joe's? Shaking her head, she dismissed it as coincidence. Life didn't work like fairy tales. Yet, fate had other plans. A week later, a sleek black car pulled up outside the diner during her shift. Out stepped Alexander, looking every bit the executive in a tailored suit, his lip healed but a faint scar remaining. Customers stared as he approached her counter. "Ma, right?" he said with a warm smile. She nodded, flustered. "I wanted to thank you properly." That night, I was scouting locations incognito, seeing the real side of the industry. You didn't just save me, you reminded me why I started this buzziness, to help people like you. He invited her to coffee the next day, and though hesitant, Emma agreed, sensing an opportunity. Over lattes in a quaint cafe tilde copyright A worlds away from Joe, so they talked for hours. Alexander shared his story. Orphaned young, he'd worked as a dishwasher, climbing the ladder through sheer grit. Emma opened up about her abandonment, her dreams deferred, Lily's innocent hopes. "You're tougher than most executives I know," he told her, eyes sincere. Touched, she felt a spark of hope, but reality crashed back. Bills waited. As they parted, he offered her a position, entry-level manager at one of his chains, with training and benefits. "It's not charity," he insisted. "It's investment in potential." Overwhelmed, Emma accepted, tears welling. Her first day was a whirlwind, learning inventory, customer service protocols, even budgeting, a skill she'd craved. Co-workers were kind, the pay doubled her old wage, and for the first time, she afforded Lily new clothes. But challenges arose. Some staff resented the newbie, and Emma doubted herself during busy rushes. Alexander mentored her via emails, his encouragement a lifeline. One night, after a grueling shift, she found a note in her locker, "Keep going. You've got this." Inspired, she pushed harder, earning respect through her work ethic. Months passed. Lily thrived in after-school programs, and Emma's confidence bloomed. Yet, a nagging fear lingered. What if it all vanished? Alexander invited her to headquarters for a review, and as she stepped into the gleaming building, nerves fluttered. In his office, he praised her progress. "But there's more," he said, sliding over papers. It was a scholarship for her to finish her degree, plus a promotion. "You saved me, Ma. Now let me help you soar." Choking back sobs, she hugged him, gratitude overflowing. This was just the beginning, a testament to how one act of bravery could rewrite destinies. As Emma stood in that boardroom, the check in her hand symbolizing not just financial security but validation of her worth, she reflected on the journey that had led her here, a path paved with tears, triumphs, and unexpected alliances. Alexander, the CEO she'd unwittingly rescued, had become more than a boss. He was a friend, a mentor who saw in her the fire he'd once harbored. But the road hadn't been smooth after her promotion. Jealousy brewed among some colleagues, whispers of favoritism echoing in break rooms. Emma faced it head-on, proving her mettle by revamping a struggling branch, increasing profits through innovative menu tweaks inspired by her diner days, a comfort food with a gourmet twist. Customers raved, and sales soared, silencing doubters. Home life transformed too. Lily's laughter filled their new apartment, a cozy two-bedroom with a view of the park, where they picnicked on weekends. Emma enrolled in night classes, juggling textbooks with managerial duties, often studying until dawn. Alexander checked in regularly, sharing war stories from his early days, the rejections, the near bankruptcies, the loneliness at the top. "Success isn't about the title," he'd say. "It's about lifting others." Inspired, Emma started a mentorship program at the chain for single parents, drawing from her experiences to guide them. One mentee, a young father named Carlos, reminded her of herself as struggling but determined. She helped him secure a scholarship, watching him flourish with pride. Yet, shadows loomed. Health scares hit when Lily needed surgery for a congenital issue, the bills astronomical despite insurance. Panicked, Emma confided in Alexander, who quietly covered the gap through the company's aid fund. "Family first," he insisted, revealing his own loss as a sister to illness years ago, fueling his philanthropy. Their bond deepened, platonic yet profound, built on mutual respect. As Emma graduated with honors, Alexander threw a surprise party, toasting her as the heart of our empire. But the true climax came during a company gala, where he announced her as the new regional director, a role overseeing dozens of locations. The applause thundered, but Emma's eyes locked on Lily in the front row, beaming. In her speech, she shared her story, the bar fight, the leap of faith, the transformation. "Kindness ripples," she said, voice cracking. "One night, I saved a stranger. He saved me in return." Alexander pulled her aside later. "There's one more thing," he whispered, handing her the check, a bonus, but also seed money for her dream cafe. Copyright. Build it under our umbrella, or on your own. Either way, it's yours." Overwhelmed, Emma hugged him tightly, tears flowing freely. This wasn't just about money, it was redemption, proof that struggles forge strength. Flash forward to today, Emma's Cafe Copyright, Lily's Haven, thrives as a community hub, blending affordable eats with upscale flair, employing locals like her former self. Alexander visits often, their friendship enduring. Lily, now thriving, aspires to be like Moma, a fighter, a dreamer. Emma's life, once a grind, is now a tapestry of purpose, reminding her that heroes emerge from the unlikeliest places. Through highs and lows with adults, the victorious as she learned that saving someone could mean saving yourself, that empathy bridges worlds. And as she looks back, that fateful night in the diner wasn't random, it was destiny's whisper, urging her to step up. Now, with stability and joy, Emma pays it forward, mentoring others, her story inspiring chain-wide initiatives for employee support. Alexander, forever grateful, credits her with reigniting his passion for the business's human side. Their tale, emotional and uplifting, shows that in a world of chaos, one brave act can spark a lifetime of change, touching hearts far beyond their own.